Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for being with us today at the multi-platform TeleSUR. We are live in English and Spanish, and let's start with our transmission. As you know, this Wednesday there were released proofs and evidence due to the departure of Edmundo González Urrutia from Venezuela to the Kingdom of Spain a few days ago. The president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodríguez, lawmaker, revealed details about a reunion that he had with Vice President Elsie Rodríguez and held with González Urrutia in the diplomatic headquarters of Spain in Caracas, Venezuela, due to the departure of the leader to Spain. There was also released a letter signed by Edmundo González Urrutia, and he acknowledged the results of the elections held on July 28th, where the President Nicolás Maduro was victorious. Let's reveal more details about how those previous talks were held, and also we are welcome lawmaker Dr. Jorge Rodríguez. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation.
There's a huge audience at this moment. Let's start with what happened today. You gave details about it, but there are a lot of stories that there's interesting. The first that is very interesting, how this letter became public. How the first that was released, the letter was released in opposition news media. I heard it about Alberto News. There was no official voice about this important document. Why? What do you know about this? Why the opposition media, local and foreign, were the ones who released this letter?
I believe thank you for the invitation to this space with a broad public. I think that we're in a moment of long nights in the extreme wing of Venezuela. All of the signs of leaking that happened from September to today come from opposition sectors, for example, pages dedicated to fascist propaganda founded by Julio Borges called Gran Aldea published a chronicle of how these events of the departure of Edmundo González happened. It was absolutely fake and manipulated, and since we made a commitment to be reserved about this letter that Edmundo González delivered to the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, was an important moment since that doesn't recognize the Guaidó Assembly, Perenne Assembly, and the lady that is there in Valencia. But it recognizes the National Assembly voted by the people of Venezuela in December and recognizes the 5 powers of the state, and we agreed keeping this reserved because this was demanded, and we didn't have any problem in keeping this private. But obviously there was not agreement with this. He and his lawyers, their words worthless, as my grandma said, because they're lying all the time, and they're all the time contradicting themselves. There was an article of La Gran Aldea, and after an article of the El País that tries to sweeten this
with more journalistic features.
Some pictures of the journalism, and also the extreme wing of the world, of Spain specifically, headed by the former President Aznar, who contradicts international law for the asylum law. And the letter he signed, he gathered with Feijóo and promoted that fake event of the Congress of Deputies, that aggression against the peoples of Venezuela, approved in the Congress of Deputies, that the Venezuela gave response to this and gathered with a lot of people and held a conversation with the director of this orchestra, the head of this movement. And after the interview, he came out threatening Venezuela as if he was Donald Trump or any of the officials that on a daily
However,
basis do this.
you were aware about that this was happening, that was
course.
public, but you had the letter
But we
guarded.
were saying all the time, let's keep this peaceful, let's have patience. Until today, we realized that this is taking different characteristics, and I have no doubt that from the extreme right wing of Venezuela, this published arises some kind of transcription, since it is not the original letter written by Edmundo González. And ahead of this situation, and because we have a responsibility with the people of Venezuela and also with the public opinion of the world, since no matter if they try to manipulate it, for that reason we said the letter was signed and sent and delivered by hand.
That's the original
by
one?
González. This is a copy, the original is back there. This letter, written by him and signed by him, if I demanded something, it was that please put his signature to all of the pages of the letter to avoid intentions of saying that it was modified, this letter that he sent. And the other important element was that he had to deliver it in my hands.
That's what I want to know.
Even in those first days of September, 6, 7 of September, luckily in my life, I have never
You didn't know
seen
him.
this man. If I see it in the streets, I wouldn't know, because he was not in the electoral campaign. He was bi-dimensional, if we see it in
This,
three
for our
dimensions.
audience, international audience, it means that many of the political campaigns, he were not there.
Exactly. They were showing a picture of him, and I haven't seen him. Some people close to him communicate with us, with me, and propose the possibility of having some exchanges with him due to his intention of requesting political asylum to the Kingdom of Spain. And that was the proposal. And a psychiatrist said, this Mr. González Urrutia wants to talk with representative of Bolivarian Revolution to request the possibility of asking for political asylum, and the government, complying the international law, gives this.
That was a phone call, a message.
This was the start. At the beginning, it was a phone call, and then after that, phone conversations between González Urrutia and me, and between him and the people involved and me. And then Friday 6th of September, it was proposed the need for a face-to-face conversation between Edmundo González and Jorge Rodríguez, and President Nicolás Maduro designated Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, and we went to the headquarters of the Embassy of Spain, and there we had a
That's
conversation.
the pictures that you were showing out.
No, those are not. In that headquarters, we had a conversation, colloquial and formal conversation, where we analyzed our point of view respectfully, and where it was also proposed that his intention was leaving Venezuela through a political asylum that he was going to request to the Kingdom of Spain. We continued with the conversation, and he proposed the writing of a letter and gave it to me because it's addressed to the President of the National Assembly. That process, in less than 24 hours after, we had a new meeting.
In the same scenario
of the Embassy of Spain, and those are the pictures I showed. I want to insist to Mr. González Urrutia that lie has no legs, and people are surprised, and we know that you and your lawyers are liars, and you don't know how to lie. You do it wrong. You don't realize or even think that we have fundamentals.
Let's see that there are the pictures that we can show to ask you about that meeting. The tone of that meeting was warm. Was it warm or polite, respectful?
Yes, it was respectful, and we had the feeling that, as they always do, the extreme right wing always do, because they have control of media of Western. They do what they want, and as we expected, that our word were interpreted by them, and everything that I'm saying is proofs of the evidence that we have. This, for example, is getting into trouble the ambassador of the Kingdom of Spain, and there we have the deputies of the extreme right.
The ambassador must have had a permission of the foreign affairs of their country.
It was a negotiation with two sides. By one side, the vice president, and on the other side, the government of Spain, analyzing the legal documents on the safe conduct that Venezuela has to issue to ensure that people, as González Urrutia, leave the country. In his case, he had a request by the prosecutor's office, and also approving the landing of an aircraft of Spain, which was also a lie. That they started to say that there was a plane flying and landed.
It is not like there are sources from Spain that they said that.
Of course, I insist. They think that we are in the 16th century, when we were a colony of this empire. I'm not talking about the 19th century, because they are resentful about it, but it is evident that if that plane lands and is in the vice presidency of the republic, there's permission approved, and that's part of the negotiation with the government of Spain. The conversation with González Urrutia and mine was based in goodwill from him and from me to deliver a letter with the motives of his request for asylum, and that we have the image.
This letter was handed over from him himself. How this happened? 24 hours earlier, you had a meeting. That's the first moment you met him, and then we have this moment where there are pictures released, and we showed already. How did he hand the document to you? I want to emphasize in this because at the same time with your presentation, the great news media worldwide are talking about.
There's a phrase that I remember. If you can see this picture here, he says, "Look the way I'm dressed for the travel." And I get near to him and shake his hand. "How are you?" He gives me the letter, and I said, "Please put the signature in the page." And he gives me the letter signed, and I put, I ratify it, and there's a witness that also signs this letter. But it is curious that he welcomes me, and the day before he said, "I'm dressed this way because I thought that I was traveling today." There was an immense desire by Mr. González Urrutia, an intention which was part of our conversation. "I have no doubt," he said, My intention is moving to Spain and requesting political asylum. That's also important. Someone who's in an European embassy can't request political asylum in that embassy, in the headquarters of the embassy. He has to be in the territory of that country where he has to request asylum, as the law of Europe and Spain establishes. I thought I was traveling today. How can he do this crazy fact of saying that he was obliged, since this happened in the kingdom?
There was the ambassador of Spain.
Of course, the ambassador was there. He didn't have good position by his government, but it's a witness that Mr. González Urrutia was there as a guest, and we didn't assault the place. We entered knocking the door because we were invited to a conversation. The ambassador gave us welcome. We were there and talked for more than 50 minutes in a peaceful, respectful way. He expressed his desire, his intention. He wasn't going to change his mind, and his intention was getting to Spain. And we said, well, analyzing the laws of Venezuela, we're going to proceed to ensure your travel and allow this plane to land in Venezuela.
The document is signed, this document that you showed, then all of these facts then happen afterwards. After this meeting,
I would say that minutes. He signed, gave me the letter, and I had a tourney of tennis, and I couldn't miss it. I took my letter and I went to the event, and when I was there, I got an information that the vice president had already published on Instagram that González Urrutia had left the country with the approval of the government of Spain so that he could travel to Madrid. That was all. I was in my internment, and I had the letter there, handwritten, because we expected that there was no need to show even a fragment of the letter. If you review our behavior from September 8th to today, we didn't even intend that there was a document. We didn't even publish an account of the Bolivarian Revolution or media of the Bolivarian Revolution. We didn't even insinuate that this was happening. Everything, every hypothesis ever came from the extreme right, because there's a fight, and there's something that is true, is I hope that they don't lie. What we understood from the things that were told there that day is that the rest of a part of the opposition didn't have an idea that this was happening. I understand this is not a speculation. It's something I heard. I understand that the day he left is when he called his people and said, I'm leaving. It was a short conversation. It was rough, and he just cut the line and left.
You gave an important detail during the press conference, which I want to emphasize, is even you were offered whiskey. Why I say this? When you offer whiskey, this means that it is a delay meeting.
This meeting was extended as a courtesy of the staff of the Embassy of Spain, and they put whiskey on the table and they offered us drinks, and we continued to the conversation, and it was respectful. And this is something that we might say, if we talk respectful after all of the lies they told, because I think that what he did was moving on and jumping, because he knew that that letter was written, and he makes the mistake of telling his lawyer I recommend him to avoid any other TV show, because if that story is, Pinocchio is true, I don't know where his nose would reach.
Let's show
He lies all the time.
some statements of the lawyer of Edmundo González Urrutia from today, which we have said before. From very early in the morning, there was released this letter, released through social media, news media of the world, and the lawyer of Edmundo González said that the letter didn't even exist. That I'm not saying this. The lawyer is the one who's saying this. Let's present his statements that were released today in the conference, the news conference today in TeleSUR studios. We have another one, but we are going to show it in a little bit, few seconds. Let's show it.
A conversation that I had with him a little after that he arrived in Madrid, and having the tranquility to talk, Edmundo González Urrutia ratified directly that he didn't subscribe any document where he recognizes the electoral results of the CNE and the number 1 and 2 bulletin, and the certification and verification of the electoral results established by the Supreme Court of Justice of Venezuela in the electoral room on August 22, 2024. That information was published by some communication media and social networks, and due to his request, I must inform that information is not true, and ask please that in this subject related to Edmundo González Urrutia, we need to be wise and verify information, use information from reliable sources, because there are a lot of conversations going on about it and speculations that hurt the image of Edmundo González Urrutia and his political leadership, and also the purpose that he has been a leader of as a head of the Venezuelan opposition, the unified platform of this Party of a New Time and the Movement for Venezuela. That's what I can say about it. And finally, state that Edmundo González Urrutia until now wanted the freedom of political prisoners of Venezuela, and that's a request that he made. And about that, well, that will depend on the Venezuelan authorities to comply with this or not. But he also asked for the freedom of political prisoners, as he always has done since as being a candidate for the presidency.
As you see, from one side there are declarations, but the facts are going in another direction. And as we have made it clear, Edmundo González Urrutia has allowed for you to show the real truth. How more details you can show to us?
Before answering the question, it's important to adjust ourselves chronologically to this day. From the early morning after 8 a.m., I got a call from a journalist of a news agency of the United States saying that it is true that there's a letter. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen it in some social media that some websites were publishing. I'm saying because it's important that this person declares this immediately, then the media of the extreme right that justified the aggression against women and innocent men of Venezuela that are all the time ordered by these people, those extreme right media were the ones that published this. I understand that media close to the revolution or official media were careful because all of these publications were from media of the right wing. When he goes out, he couldn't know that we had the intention to release the information because the declaration he gave was so fake because we were standing meetings with human beings that we consider part of the worst aggression
and already
to Venezuela.
unfulfilling of the letter.
And every day I was seeing the letter and seeing the things that this person did. And I was thinking, he has no word. And I think this is one of the worst characteristics that a politician might have. Chavez taught us that the only thing we have is our word to face the people, and if we make a mistake, recognize it, and if we don't obtain the results we wanted, say it to our people. That's what Hugo Chavez taught us. And day after day, in these 10 days that have passed, he was not complying with the elements that he stated in the letter. And then, according to his lawyer, it said he didn't
When
deliver
the
a
letter was already became known publicly, not officially confirmed, but
it was published everywhere. When I see his statement there, I summoned my team and to carry out a press conference. When there's a gossip, the best way to end it with it, in everywhere, it's clarify it. And that day, today, this gossip will have an end, because what else can say them than to complicate themselves more? He said that he was
like forced
to do this. Well, this happened how? The vice president of the Assembly of Venezuela go to the embassy, are welcomed by the ambassador, and he leads them to the meeting with González Urrutia. We had a first meeting where we talked a little bit about the intentions that he had, the desires.
It was ratified the messages he sent to you previously.
Absolutely. I have proofs that there was certain desperation on his side to leave the country as soon as possible. As he stated, from the first day, I'm ready to go. But I said, let's talk, because there are some elements that we need to talk about and some elements that the government of Venezuela has to talk with the government of Spain. This is not automatically happening. And said, well, let's wait until tomorrow. But if he had to take this decision, he would have left the country before. Look, Patricia, this person, before that the National Electoral Council informed the result, was hidden in the embassy of the Netherlands. I'm not stating this. This is what the ambassador of the Netherlands in Venezuela stated. He was hidden there. But he said that he was hidden from the July the 28th to be there in the morning of the 29th, when the extremists and Maria Corina Machado called for violence, burning hospitals, burning transportation units, burning everything that was related to Chavism, and even symbols related to President Chavez and Maduro, to burn buses just for anger that they had, since Maduro delivered hundreds of buses. And this was accompanied by several bots and psychological manipulation and social manipulation, so that they could unleash a situation of violence that the government of Venezuela could stop. But if you analyze it, this person was hidden since the 29th, when women of Venezuela were being murdered. In that moment, he was hidden in the embassy of the Netherlands. When I think that one or twice in those activities summoned by Maria Corina Machado, he was leaving the embassy of the Netherlands. There he spoke or not, and then was hidden again in the car, while the people in the streets
You said something when you met with
started
him.
fighting themselves. I didn't tell him anything else than that because I didn't know that
When
he was
he
there.
released by the foreign ministry.
When he travels to Madrid, the ambassador of the Netherlands, he said, I have him from the 28th. Probably they don't get along, since the truth is that he leaves the embassy of the Netherlands, I think on September 4th or 5th, and then goes into the embassy of the Kingdom of Spain. He was not even an hour in a house to be the protagonist of this fight. And I will say more, the reason why the prosecutor's office issued an order against González Urrutia has nothing to do with the electoral results or his performance in the electoral campaign. It has to do with, one, the fact that he faked certain tally sheets, and also the fact that he was coerced because he publishes a document through his lawyer. If you see here, it's the same signature. Here's the original.
They said that the journalists were very gossip. So it's like
A psychiatrist.
we want to make sure that this is the original one of the letter you presented today. But that you are holding, that's from the Attorney General's office. That after he didn't present himself, appeared before the court. Let's ask for our wish camera, please. Can you show the audience both signatures from the original one and the copy one in the best shot we can make? This is, you can see both signatures that are exactly the same. Above this one, we have no doubt about the truth and the veracity, but this one we are showing today is the first time we are showing that this is the original
That's
one,
right.
which already exists. And
But also the tone and some of the contents of this letter of the prosecutor's office has the date of September the 4th. It was received that day. Some of the elements present in this letter were already in this press release. Here the prosecutor's office recognizes the public powers of the state. Now we know that he didn't attend since he was a coward. They don't comply with the Constitution, and here it reads, I was always been and I will be willing to comply with the Constitution. It's almost the same phrase as the one that he put in that letter he gave me before leaving the country. And this letter he gave to the Attorney General of the Republic. Here he talks about the tally sheets, and he says that he complies, which is fundamental. I'm not gonna judge the personality of this person, but in the best of the cases, he's a coward because he was coerced by someone not that important, which and by me. Who is going to believe that? And if that was true, in supposing that that was true, why are you so coward that allow yourself to put elements of your way of thinking that then turns out to be someone forced you to do it? And the terms are the same. I can even assert when he was already in the arms of the
When he was in Spain already.
Marxists. He used the same terms of the letter he
that
gave me.
statement was considered by many of the opposition leaders
Because they didn't know the letter. This communique that is very broad has the same tone of the letter, but in the letter he established the elements of his way of thinking regarding the elections of July the 28th, which are: one, he recognizes that the president of the National Assembly of Venezuela is no other but those elected. There's no other parliament but the one elected on December the 6th, 2020, and it will end its on next year. Jorge Rodríguez, president of the National Assembly. The other element says that there was a consensus appeal imposed by the president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros. This is the first time since 2018 a representative of the extreme wing recognizes as constitutional president of the republic Nicolás Maduro Moros, as said here, and also in the letter to the prosecutor's office.
You're making links between the tone and the way of writing of this text, this document that was handed over to the Attorney General's office. This letter that we found out today, he signed before leaving the country and asking for political asylum in Spain. But let me ask you about let's ask about the declaration his lawyer did at the moment when he is going to speak on his behalf before the Supreme Court of Justice. Let's present these statements to find similarities.
Solicitude request of political asylum by González Urrutia towards some of the embassies of Venezuela. The asylum hasn't been requested, and that's a matter that has not been proposed by the families or González Urrutia himself.
At the moment, he gave those statements for our clarity, for our audience's clarity. Those who are watching this transmission at this hour, Mr. González Urrutia was already hidden in the Netherlands embassy.
He has declared 2 times in 8 days, and both declarations have been fake. When he says this, he was not only hidden in the embassy of the Netherlands, but he started to contact us to ensure the mechanism to leave the country. And I will say more. He left the embassy of the Netherlands hidden, and he got into the embassy of Spain, since he was having contacts and exchange with them to get the safe passage to travel to Spain, and then there, as his letter states, since his boss said it, and that he should fire him. The letter states, consequently, being in the headquarters of the Kingdom of Spain, I have changed my intention of requested political asylum to their government. And there's something fundamental here that reads, I'll be willful to comply with the decisions adopted by the judicial bodies in the framework of the Constitution, but he also highlights, including the hasty sentence of the prosecutor's office. Although I don't share it, I don't agree with it, I comply with it, since it's a resolution of the Supreme Court of Justice. I comply with it. That's all. Nothing else to say. Because saying, as he said, knowing what was going to happen, he does not only anything else but causing more trouble, since he could cause problems with the King of Spain, and he will have trouble to solve these conflicts. And there's something else. In Venezuela, there have been people, awful people, like Carlos Javier Perez. He was an evil person, but he was not a coward. And there hasn't been president of the republic that might have had different characteristics, but cowardice is something that the people of Venezuela don't forgive. And even someone who wanted to be president of the country, you can't be anything else but a coward. It was so much that in these times, when I saw Otto saying what he said, I called some people to ratify if this was true or was product of the artificial intelligence.
Let's move a little bit backwards about something that happened today. In some way, you qualified Edmundo González Urrutia, but he, during the electoral campaign, during different interviews to social media, I want to show you what Edmundo González said for a Colombian news media. Let's recall, we're going backwards before the July 28th election. Let's see the statements.
Well, it was a decision. When I was proposed this, I said them that I will accept this with two conditions. First, that it was going to be a provisional situation. That was fundamental. And second, I asked them that it had to be unanimous of all of the electoral powers. And I'm pleased to say that here we need the effort of everybody to start this path of building democracy in Venezuela. What is the meaning of you accepting this candidacy of the opposition of Venezuela as provisional? Well, provisional until July the 28th, when we held the elections.
There you can see the statements that configure the scenario that follow in the following weeks.
It seemed like it's the only time that he complies with his words, because the July the 28th, he was hidden in the embassy. The only time when he seemed to be reliable was that time. And this, what shows, is the huge fight for power that is happening in the extreme right wing. I wouldn't want to say it, but or mention those times that he didn't answer the phone to Marina Corina Machado when he was in the embassy of Spain. When he moved to the embassy of Spain, he had already had conversations and stopped answering the phone to Marina Corina Machado, and there was only one call minutes after leaving the country to the Spain. The screams of this lady when he realized that this was true. But the extreme right has always had media that is changing reality in their favor, unless showing what has been proven. I said to him today and I didn't know that he had declared, because this is something that we have seen. He arrived in Madrid and published this communique that has the same tone of the one he delivered to the prosecutor's office. When he publishes this, as some people thought that he was giving up, he forced the supposed audio had to be published, which was published by this lady who took an audio by González Urrutia and leaked it again to put pressure on him, and also the supposed letter read by the daughter that included all these elements similar to what he published today. Then we're in the presence of a case of Dr. Yek and Mr. Hyde. What's happening is that Mr. Hyde that I'm showing him with proofs. They are trying to show Dr. Yek is of the right wing, like in this Oscar Wilde's novel. Dr. Yek is that is going to get to the end. He said before, as you have shown, that he will be there on July 28th, and he was hidden that day in the embassy of the Netherlands and moved to the embassy of Spain. Back then he was already talking with us, and he might have been talking with those who put pressure on him all that time. There's someone who has been putting pressure on you all this time, and you know how was doing it and the things that he or she made you do it, and we also know it. You have until tomorrow to change your mind, because we have proof of the conversation we had where the decision to move to Spain was yours, the desire was yours. You came to us and said that you had the intention to go to Spain, and we as officials sent by President Maduro agreed that that was going to be the way, and started off their proceedings to ensure the travel of the plane from Madrid to Dominican Republic and then to Caracas, so that González Urrutia could travel to Madrid.
There has been said that tomorrow, according to Edmundo González's behavior, can you advance a little bit?
What we have is the record of the conversations we had the first time we saw each other in the embassy of the Kingdom of Spain, and we have more stuff. Anything.
We will be very aware.
We will be aware of it. It will depend on González Urrutia and Arrow.
You made a reference to the political class of Venezuela, this sector of the political spectrum in Venezuela, but there are citizens of that country that are voted for him. Those citizens had many impressions and personal opinions regarding what Edmundo González did and what is happening at this moment. So at this moment, there's also a discredit towards to legitimize this evidence that you have shown. We are at the moment of the post-truth, that despite you are seeing the evidence, you cannot recognize them. There are citizens. What would you say to them?
That again, we're alone. They are alone, and throw them under the bus due to the irresponsibility and disrespect that they have towards the Venezuelans that are in the street working, looking for better conditions for the children. The same. They always do the same and go to social media and communication media to expose their lies. In this case, we are in the presence of a brutal fight, and they are looking for ways to get out of this. The fact that they were the ones who leaked this audio and information. I don't know if the Magali did it with your authorization, but she was the one who leaked the WhatsApp audio where you were saying things hours after that communique was published. Who's putting pressure on who? Who is coercing who? Why are you forced to record a WhatsApp audio which is different from the one you published a few hours before? Why are you saying such thing as barbaric as the officials of the Venezuelan state went to an embassy to put pressure on you? If you know what happened there, and we have evidence of what happened there, I invite anybody to analyze the signature of Edmundo González. We're also showing the picture of Edmundo González signing, and I will tell another story. I had no pen that time, and I asked, I had to borrow his pen. In my signature, I did it with his pen.
A final question to the governments of the world, to foreign ministries of the world in Latin America, in Europe, especially in Spain, and the Parliament of Europe. What does this letter represent? What is the meaning of this letter inside this huge story that has been releasing since July 28th?
As the song states, no matter what they do, they'll always be exposed. Because this is an example of a way of giving up what it has been showed here. That is why they had tried to hide this. Also, there is a fundamental element, that is the letter of the sentence of the Supreme Court of Justice, that not only recognizes the powers of state, the President of the Republic, when he says, I comply the sentence of the Supreme Court of Justice, you know what he's saying? I agree with the winner of the elections, who is Nicolas Maduro. What the sentence of the Supreme Court stated was that the numbers after the investigation, the international media tried to minimize the investigation carried out by the Supreme Court of Justice. But if you read the electoral results and you said, I comply with the sentence of the Supreme Court of Justice, and President Maduro, I comply with the sentence, and Edmundo González Urrutia, when he says, I comply with the sentence of the Supreme Court of Justice, what he's saying is, governments of the world, parliaments of the world, that he accepts that the winner of the elections is Maduro.
We will be very aware of in the upcoming hours, very detailed. Thank you for your time hearing from the South, the simultaneous transmission. We hope to have been giving you details of how this fact unfolded. This is a very high impact information. Thank you very much for joining us here in TeleSUR.